Hey guys, this is Bethany Bayless, and I'm here with none other than J.D. Roth. How exciting is this? We are live in Colorado, and we're going to talk about the why behind blogging, because this is really fun. Before I got to Colorado, I was just watching some videos, and I watched your very first FinCon presentation.
Oh my goodness.
Of all time from 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about the concept of why we write, why we have a blog, why we interact with our audience. And I love that that was almost 8 years ago.
I can't do the math. I'm too tired to do the math, but yes.
It'll be 8 years ago.
Yes, 8 years ago. That sounds right.
And I feel like some things have changed, but maybe some things have stayed the same.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So the very first is, why do people write blogs? Why is this something that you have found in all of these years that people want to write them, or why? What's the why behind it generally?
Well, okay, this is a much more complicated question than it used to be.
Okay.
So for me, I feel like in 2011, the why was almost always either self-expression. The individual bloggers had something to say, or they wanted to help people. And I think all of us wanted to make a little bit of money. But I think nowadays, in 2019, the money is often, it can be a primary motivation for a lot of people. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But now that there are many motivations, a lot of times people are still trying to do the self-expression thing. People are trying to help people. They might be trying to build their business. I know many bloggers who are trying to use their blogs as a tool to perform outreach on their business, to attract new clients, or at least to get people more aware of them. And then there are still people who want to make money. So I think there are a lot of different whys.
And have you found that in those years that it's becoming easier, or is it becoming harder to maybe write a blog? The writing. Is the writing harder or easier?
For me or for everybody?
Let's talk about you.
Let's talk about me. It depends. I'm going to give you a lot of it depends answers.
Okay.
Because I think so when I am writing from my personal experience, when I am writing about myself and what I'm going through, it's just as easy as it's always been. So at my heart, I'm a writer. I think almost everybody knows that I'm not a marketer. I'm not somebody who's into the SEO and stuff. And that's why I need help with it. That's why I have Tom on board. I'm a writer, and I like to write, and I use writing as a way to express myself. For me, when I sit down, if I have some complicated emotions going inside, I can't talk them out. I have to sit down and write them out. And I think it's because it slows down my ADD brain. So in that regard, when I'm just talking about my own story and what I'm going through, it's just as easy and just as useful and just as productive as it's always been. But for me, a lot of the other stuff has become more difficult. And that's primarily because I make it more complicated now than I used to. In the olden days, back when the world was young and blogs were young, say 2006, 2007, when I was new to the finance blogging, if I wanted to write about, say, Roth IRAs, I would do some basic research and sit down and write about Roth IRAs and be like, okay, I just taught myself about Roth IRAs. Here's what I learned, and here's what I'm sharing with you. Nowadays, I'm much more perfectionist about it. And if I'm going to write an article about Roth IRAs, it's not just a matter of half an hour, an hour, or 2 hours. It's like a couple hours of research, several hours of writing, and then it's a hell of a lot of time editing. And so it's the fact-based stuff. Fact stuff has never been my strength. And again, I think everybody knows that. I'm all about the psychology and the emotions and the stories. And so the fact-based stuff has become more difficult for me because I want to get it right.
Right.
And it's not as easy as it used to be in that regard.
You said in the talk, 2011, that you love listening to your audience. So what is that balance for you of listening and your own creative content?
And sometimes your audience doesn't actually know what they want. I think Paula Pant has done a good job of talking about how you don't always listen to your audience. So you're right, there is a balance. So I think you do need to be aware of what your audience is coming for and what they want. But at the same time, you have to understand that when you're running a blog, it's your blog, it's your YouTube channel or whatever it is, and you're doing this for yourself and for whatever goals that you've set for yourself, whether that's making money or building an audience or building a body of work. And so when you're writing, yes, take into account what the readers are asking for, what your audience is asking for, but balance that with what your needs are. And again, this comes back to self-awareness and having, it's almost, I don't have a mission statement or a plan or any kind of business plan for Get Rich Slowly, but it's almost as if you do have that information, if you know what your blog is about and what it's for, you can take the information from your readers, what they want, and balance it with, okay, this is the direction I want to go, and I'm taking input from the readers, and oh, well, that's a good idea. I can make a course correction that way. Or no, I don't think what they want is actually what they want. I'm going to give them something a little bit different.
So one of the ways that we met is because I asked you to come up on stage with me and play a game. And one of the things was, never have I ever felt imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
And that is huge. I think that's something that, and the goal that I had for that was to see people who have been doing this for a little while.
Right.
And they realize that whether you're just starting out or you've been doing it for a long time, is that that's something that can creep in anywhere.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And how have you been able to deal with that or to handle that or to readjust when you're feeling that?
I feel like I most get imposter syndrome when I'm stepping outside my area of expertise. It doesn't sometimes even when I'm within my area of expertise, I get the imposter syndrome. And sometimes when I step outside, I'm fine. But generally speaking, if I stay within, I don't want to say my comfort zone, because I think it's good for us to move outside our comfort zones. For me, I feel the imposter syndrome when I put into a position of authority. And when people are treating me as if I'm some sort of guru, or they're expecting me to have all the answers, or if I think that's what they're expecting me. Maybe that's not actually what they're expecting, but I think it's what's going on.
Yeah. And
so for me, the way I deal with that when I start feeling this is I go back to my personal experience. So for me, Get Rich Slowly has always been, or my blogs have always been about me and my journey. And as long as I'm focusing on that, I can't feel imposter syndrome about what I'm experiencing, what I'm feeling, what I'm doing in day-to-day life. That's my story. That's just who I am. And I don't feel imposter syndrome about that. I feel imposter syndrome if I'm put on stage and said, asked to speak about social media, for example, would be a great example, because everyone knows I hate social media. And if I'm put in a position and I agree to take on that role, then I feel imposter syndrome. So I guess staying within the confines of where I know I have my strengths, and going back to the strengths, knowing your strengths. Yeah.
Well, and I also love that in the FinCon community, we are a community.
Yeah, absolutely.
And surrounding yourself with people who might be able to help you in those areas, that really helps. So what kind of community have you surrounded yourself with?
Well, I think almost all of us, I hope everybody, has, first of all, a core group of friends within the FinCon community, but also at least one mastermind, or maybe two or three even. And when you are in a mastermind, or when you surround yourself with friends, you begin to learn that, okay, different people have different skills. They have different things they enjoy about blogging. I think about, for example, Jim Wang and I have been doing this together for many, many years, and he and I have very different strengths. And so I know that if I have a question about, let's use SEO as an example, or marketing, I can go to Jim. And so I don't have to worry about developing that strength. I can just focus on my strengths and keep developing those. And my strengths are telling stories and writing and relating to my audience. And if I need help with something else, I can go to somebody else in one of my masterminds. And in fact, this really played out in FinCon in Orlando, because Tom Drake and I were sitting around and we were chatting about our own strengths and our own weaknesses and our struggles. And we realized, oh my gosh, we don't really have much overlap. We have completely different skill sets. Maybe we should work together. And we decided to do that.
This is a question that I wonder frequently, and I would really love to ask you it, so I'm going to.
All right.
I have friends in this space who might be much further ahead of me, who are much more knowledgeable, much more down the road, and I have very key issues that I just want questions. I just have so many questions, right? So you're well established. If I talk to you, I feel like I'm just getting free advice, and that feels kind of weird for me to ask. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
How would you say that people approach that? Is it okay that you ask for advice from people? And are they open to that oftentimes?
I think most of the time people are open. I think that the FinCon community is tremendously sharing, tremendously open. There's an abundance mindset, and it's fantastic. And we all realize that there's plenty of room for everybody in this space. So one thing to realize is you might look at somebody and think, oh, they're way, way advanced. But that's not necessarily true. They might be just advanced in one area. And maybe overall, yeah, they're advanced. But everyone has problems that they're working through, right? With their business, with themselves. So if you see somebody and you think, oh my gosh, I'd really love to know how they do this, but I don't want to be rude and I don't want to intrude, I don't want to ask. I'd say it's okay to ask, but just be polite about it, be brief. I know that I've talked with a lot of people who get a lot of email, and one thing that's frustrating for us, because we want to answer our email, we'll get these big, long emails. I know when I open a big, long email, I go, oh.
Yeah, you check out.
I just close it again. But if I get a 2 or 3 sentence email and it's somebody asking me a question in 2 or 3 sentences, I almost always try to answer that question. Another thing to realize is people get very, very busy. And so they might not be able to respond. In my case, I sometimes honestly go a month or 2 without replying to some of these questions. But then I'll have a Saturday, I'll go, oh, I should do email. And so I'll go through and I'll knock out dozens, and in some cases hundreds of these emails at once.
Yeah.
So if you don't get a reply, it's not that the person is trying to be rude to you, it's just that they're busy, or maybe they don't have an answer, or maybe they don't have, they're just not in email mode maybe or something.
Yeah.
So ask the questions. If you don't get an answer, be okay with that. Yeah.
If you don't get an answer, do you leave it there? Or is that something that you might say, hey, I know you're super busy, I would love to just connect with you? Or what's that balance?
I like that. Okay, I actually have sometimes when people they'll email me and I'll be busy and I won't be able to answer. And then I'll follow up and say, hey, I know you're busy, but if you have time, can you just answer real quick? And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll answer real quick. Now, I will say, this is going to sound like I'm a jerk.
No, I want the truth.
Okay. For other bloggers, I'm absolutely happy to help. And especially like at FinCon, I love doing the mentorship thing. I love that. And I love just meeting people in the halls. But I hate PR. Sorry, PR people. I hate getting the PR emails, and I almost always flag them as spam. And it's very rare that I answer them. And so those don't follow up. I don't want to hear from you the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in your talk in 2011, you said something that it just struck me as...
So you know my talk better than I do.
I may or may not have watched it several times. Go watch it on YouTube. It's amazing.
That's back when I was really, really nervous about speaking.
You did. I loved it. It was wonderful.
Thanks.
And something that you said that I really love was that you were like, in 10 years from now, we're all going to be millionaires, living in mansions. And I just love how that was 2011.
Yeah.
That's 2 years from now.
I know.
10 years is 2 years from now. And what have you seen that maybe's changed, or has it come to fruition?
Yeah, Jim Wang lives in a mansion. You should see it.
I need to go there.
Yeah. So yeah, it's come to fruition. And whereas I've downsized, I'm like in 1,100 square feet in this house that's falling apart.
So totally different than what you thought.
Yeah.
But some of that might be a choice, right?
It is a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so things have shifted, things have changed. What do you hope now, in 2 years from now? What would you say that your hope is for this community, or even for the people who have been in this community for a long time?
Well, I feel like this community is my family. And not just my family, it is a family. And so it's a family for you, it's a family for Jim, it's a family for Justin. And so I want it to continue, I want it to remain a family, you know? I want people to remain supportive to each other. And I know there's all sorts of little FinCon dramas that go on. It's gonna happen, but that happens in families, right?
Right.
So work through those dramas, support each other. I think supporting each other is huge. And one difference that I've seen, I've been blogging for more than 20 years now, not finance blogging, but blogging in general. One difference I've seen is it seems to me that people are a lot less likely to link to each other and to promote each other's stuff. I love linking to people's stuff. I love promoting other people's stuff because if somebody writes an awesome article on, I don't know, how to save a down payment for a house, it doesn't hurt me to link to that. Do it. Share the good stuff that other people are producing.
Thank you. I think it's so encouraging, and it's such a great perspective because I do feel like we can get competitive.
Yeah.
And the heart of FinCon has always been collaboration and working together and to really root each other on and to keep that going.
It's the abundance mindset. I mean, have an abundance mindset. Understand that there's plenty out there for everybody. And by continually promoting each other's work and linking to each other's work and rooting for each other's success, it's making all of us better. It doesn't detract from you. Your success does not detract from my success.
Well, and there's an infinite number of voices out
Absolutely.
there. And you said that in your talk, so I'm quoting JD. There's an infinite number of voices. You totally did.
See, I say that now too, because my audience is not necessarily your audience.
And, you know, people who enjoy my humor might not enjoy, or someone else might not enjoy my humor.
Are you?
I mean, I think I'm funny, but looks aren't everything. And
my dad used to say that all the time.
My mom and I think that we're funny, right?
Yeah.
So if I can laugh with her, then
dad jokes. Does your face hurt? It's killing me.
Because I fell from heaven.
No.
Well, JD, thank you so much for just spending this time and to revisiting some fun memories. And here's to making new ones. And where can people find you?
I'm going to be in the hot tub. Oh, you don't mean in 5 minutes. Okay.
On the internet. We will be live from the hot tub late. Just kidding.
GetRichSlowly.org.
There you go.
That's my once and future home.
Okay. Thanks so much, JD.
Thank you.